What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, your home for the 2020 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. My name is Jeff Spiegel, and it is the morning after heartbreak. 5-3, the Dodgers lose to the Giants last night. We're not here to talk about the Cleveland Guardians. We are here to talk about Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen, what is the deal with the Dodgers closer? This is one of the best players that the Dodgers have had over the past few decades. He's been an elite closer for a long time. But the question is valid to ask is, what do we do at this moment? Last night, Kenley Jansen, 2/3 of an innings, 4 earned runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. And the Dodgers lose what was the biggest game of the season. They had a 3-1 lead going into the ninth. They hand the ball to Jansen, and he blows it. The Dodgers go from potentially being 1 game back in the division to 3 games back in the division. Now, there's lots you could say about this outing, okay? So should he have gotten out of it on a ground ball hit to Chris Taylor, who maybe didn't play with enough urgency? Sheldon Noisy stretches even 3 inches. That game is probably over. Doesn't get the benefit of that one. There's a check swing call in Darren Ruff where probably should have been a strikeout, but doesn't get the call. Although on that one, I'd argue that there was a strike call a few pitches earlier that didn't belong anywhere near being called a strike, and so probably evened out there. But the bottom line is Jansen had a runner on first with 2 outs and a 2-run lead, with Donovan Solano, Jason Vosler, Thairo Estrada, Darren Ruff, and Lamont Wade Jr. due up. Vosler, a rookie, 58 career at-bats, 207 hitter, on-base percentage under 300. Estrada, 157 career at-bats with the Yankees and the Giants. And Kenley Jansen could not get it done. Now, here's what I want to say. There needs to be some nuance in this conversation. Because has Kenley Jansen been bad this past week? Of course. But to say that he's trash, he sucks, he's washed, we need a little bit of context, okay? Before the All-Star break, let's remember who we're talking about here with Jansen. This was a guy who had 15 consecutive scoreless outings. He had 16 consecutive saves without blowing one. He hadn't blown a save since May 5th. His ERA was at a season low 1.24, okay? Over those 15 scoreless outings I mentioned, he was allowing basically 1 base runner an inning, striking out 1 guy per inning. The problem is, post-All-Star break, 3 games, 2 innings pitched, 9 hits, 8 earned runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. That's the question. What do we do with this guy? And I said last night on our show, if you missed it, Daniel and I had a little counseling session live. Tons of people joined us. But what do we do with Jansen at this moment? Part of it, I will admit, is Dave Roberts' fault. But part of it is on Jansen. Jansen has his persona is a guy who give me the ball, otherwise I'm going to be pissed. Well, he got the ball and he didn't do his job. Now, Dave Roberts put him in a bad position, okay? So this was the 9th time this season that Kenley Jansen had pitched on back-to-back nights. The most pitches he had on the first night of a back-to-back was 20 heading into last night. Last night, he was coming off of the most pitches he had thrown in any game all season, 27 pitches. The most pitches he had thrown combined in a back-to-back was 40. At the end of last night, before he even got out of the inning, he had thrown 60 pitches. So the night after he throws the most pitches he has all season, Dave Roberts brings him back into a pressure-packed situation, the biggest game of the season, and absolutely fails his guy by trying to go there. Roberts was so committed to going to Jansen that he pulls Buehler maybe a little sooner than he should have. He allows Trinan to pitch the 8th only because he knew he was going to Jansen for the 9th. It was entirely predetermined. And my thing is, that wasn't the game to mess around with. Yes, I get it. You want Jansen's confidence, etc., etc. You don't play those games in that game against the Giants with a chance to cut the lead in the division to just 1 game. I think Roberts failed Jansen on that one. I think you could look back through all the at-bats. Okay, he gives up the double to Solano, then the Vosler, Estrada, Ruff, Wade. There's no way he should be pitching to every single one of those guys. Ruff, the check swing, Roberts gets tossed. The fact that in a 3-3 game with the bases loaded, Jansen was allowed to continue pitching to Lamont Wade Jr., who puts a 2-run single, game over, basically, is absolutely unacceptable. And Roberts said after the game he thought he had some left. If that's a real quote, if you really were watching the game and thought Jansen had something left, then that's a problem. Because he wasn't anywhere near the strike zone. There wasn't a pitch in the strike zone to Ruff. There was not a single pitch in the strike zone. He got a generous strike call, he got a chase, and then he got the check swing. But the thing is that's all the context there. This wasn't the game to mess around. Roberts messed around. I blame Roberts mostly for that. Although Jansen, you're the guy, you want the ball, you want to be the closer, you blew it. So where do we go from here? The thing I would say to remind people, we've seen Jansen go through stretches of like this, right? No Dodger fan is immune to having seen Jansen struggle. We've seen him refine himself time and time again. The question for me is, mentally, can Jansen recover? He's been booed at home 2 nights in a row. He blows the 2 biggest games of the season to the Giants. He's in a contract year. We know there's going to be all sorts of talk in the media, maybe even in the locker room, about Jansen being the sort of iron-fisted closer or whether this becomes a rotation. I'm fascinated to see how he responds mentally all this. Because keep in mind, even after last night, this is a guy who's in the 90th percentile or higher in the league in exit velocity, hard hit percentage, expected batting average, expected slugging percentage. He's got red numbers everywhere. Now, if there's a concern, how about 16% of guys he's facing are walking this year? But like I said, this is the same guy who probably deserved to be an All-Star. He had a 1.24 ERA at the All-Star break. He had 16 consecutive saves without blowing one, 15 consecutive scoreless outings. And yes, he's had a bad stretch. But can he pull it together? I joked at the beginning of the season, my bold prediction was Jansen under 3 ERA. He's been great, 1.24. Well, guess what? After last night, the ERA is up above 3. I still think he gets it below 3. I still think Jansen finds some magic and is a really, really good, maybe even the best reliever the Dodgers have. But whether or not this pushes them to a Craig Kimbrell type trade, Ian Kennedy's the name that's been mentioned, we'll see. So let us know. What do you think? Does Kenley Jansen deserve another chance at the Dodgers closer after a few days of rest? Does he need to be traded? Does he need to be benched? Do you blame Dave Roberts? Let us know in the comments below. Dodger Blue 1958 everywhere on social media. Make sure you subscribed here and ring the notification bell. So when videos like this come out, you've got them. Check out last night's post game. It was a really fun one with Daniel. So my name is Jeff Spiegel for Dodger Blue. As always, Vince Scully taking us home.
The best team holding a trophy high in the air. The Los Angeles Dodgers, champions of the baseball world.